Okay, just to get started, I believe your father was a fiddle player as well and taught you the instrument. Did you take an instant liking to the fiddle?
I guess I did. Yeah, I think I did. Because I don't remember not playing, actually. I used to get between my dad's knees, and he'd grab a hold of my right hand and put my hand on the fiddle bow, and of course he'd note it, and I'd sit there and act like I was sawing it. I remember that at a very early age, probably 2 or 3 years old. And then I learned my first tune when I was 5 from him, and it was a tune called Mississippi Sawyer.
Right. What was
then I just took off from there.
What was the extent of your father's involvement in music? Was he a full-time professional?
No, he was a farmer, rancher, but he did play for a lot of barn dances and housewarmings, things like that. He was professional in that respect because he was the first ones they would call my dad. And musicians were hard to come by, good ones back in those days. My dad was born in 1894, so in the turn of the century, in the early teens, and that's all they had for entertainment was people who go that live music.
Yeah, continue on.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on my dad. That's where he was a player and around the community where he grew up in northern Oklahoma, and because you learn those tunes from the people that around your area, and then finally when radio came in, he would listen to that and pick up stuff from off the radio and different people, and that's just how you learn back then, by listening to whoever was in your community.
Was country and bluegrass always your first love musically?
Well, that's about all we listened to. We used to listen to the Grand Ole Opry. I remember do that a lot, and of course country. Yeah, mainly country music, because the fiddle fit in better with that. And I never did study classical music, which I could have, but I never did. And so yeah, that was really my only thing I grew up with.
Sure. When did you decide to make music a career option for you?
Well, when I was probably about a sophomore or junior in college, I thought I might have a chance, try to do it, because that's after I met the Dillards. I met them when I was a sophomore in college. Up to that point, I never thought anything about trying to make a living playing music. Just thought I'd just do it, part-time or whatever. And so, but I found out that it's possible to do it, and so I was lucky enough to be able to do that.
Sure. You got invited to play with the great Bill Monroe at around the same time as you graduated from college, I believe. Was that a difficult career decision to make, which way to go?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I always wanted to. The more I played, the more I wanted to play full time. It wasn't difficult for me, to do that. And I was very lucky to get invited to play with Bill Monroe, and I met him at the Newport Folk Festival in 1965. That's when I first met Bill, and then he asked me then to join his band. I said, well, I will when I graduate from college. So it came about. So I joined him in March of '67 and played until September.
I imagine that must have been a fantastic learning experience.
I was drafted in the Army.
It must have been a great learning experience for you working with him. Yeah. Any things in particular you learnt during your time with Bill Monroe that you still apply to your career today?
Well, playing with Bill, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the real sense of rhythm, and that's what I really learned from him. Timing and rhythm means everything in a group, and he really developed his through just being the backbone of his band by playing rhythm on the mandolin. and he held everything together with that backbeat on the mandolin. And I realized later how much I learned from that, just how important the rhythm is, you know, in a group. And it takes a while for a group to be able to develop. You know, you just can't get together and start playing and say, oh, this is... But if you have really good rhythm players and sense of rhythm, and it takes a while for a group to develop that, I think.
Later on...
He became very good at it, I think, and I learned a lot from him by being able to be a good rhythm player like he was on the mandolin.
Sure. After that, you worked with the Dillard and Clark expedition in the early 70s, and those recordings really stand up well today after so many years. What are your memories of that time?
Yeah, that was really good. I just gotten out of the Army, and Doug Dillard called me. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm getting ready to get out of here and go to Nashville, I guess. And he says, why don't you come to California and record with Gene Clark and myself? And I said, on our second album. I said, great. So I went out there and was there 4 days and did other work besides that, did a movie score and worked on another couple of sessions. And besides working with them, and I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, I liked California. It was, you know, the weather's great, and it was just a lot happening there, seemed like. And so they asked me to join the band, and I said, okay, I think I'm going to do that. So I did that, and my wife, you know, I was married at the time, and we've been married about a year. And she was willing to go wherever I wanted to go. So that was nice that we moved out there and stayed out there 26 years. But I did enjoy that, you know. It was a learning experience for me, too, being in Hollywood and that scene, you know. But what I learned is just try to make the fiddle fit in with whatever kind of music I was playing. And make it sound like where it fit.
You did a lot of session work during that time as well, and as hard as it would be to single out any, do you have any in particular sessions that you were particularly proud of, that you worked on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the Rolling Stones thing was one of the first ones I did when I moved out there. On the Country Honk Let It Bleed album. Mm-hmm. And that was fun, and of course, you know, when you do sessions for other people, you don't have a whole lot of time to put into it, so sometimes you wish you could have done it a little better here and there, you know. A lot of the sessions I've done that I did a lot of movie score work, and of course working with other entertainers and artists. I was always just, you know, it was interesting to, like I said before, is trying to figure out how to use the fiddle in some of the rock and roll riffs and stuff for to make it fit. And it seemed to work out okay.
I believe you recorded your part on the Rolling Stone session. You recorded outside on the sidewalk, is that right?
Yes. We originally started to do it in the studio, and then Mick Jagger, or whoever it was, Glenn Johns was the producer. They said, why don't you come on in? And I thought, oh, they don't like it, you know, they're going to just send me home. Yeah, so they said, we want you to record out on the sidewalk, and so they took a microphone and speaker where I could hear the track, and we walked out there, and gosh, the whole band was standing around, you know. Mick Jagger had to tell a bulldozer operator to quit working because it was going to make too much noise. And part of the Doors were down there, the group The Doors, you know, and Leon Russell was there. Of course, nobody knew who Leon Russell was at that time. He told me later that he was there in that party when I was out there in the street doing that. There's a whole bunch of people standing around watching me record. And it was kind of a party atmosphere, you know. I think their whole life's a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
But anyway, which is not bad, you know. It's a good thing to a point. So I did it about 6 or 7 times, I suppose. And the last time that I did it, we really liked that one. And that's when it was getting kind of dark outside at that moment, around dusk, and it was getting kind of damp, and my bow slipped about an inch when it was recording that one track. And but that's what they liked, so they kept that one.
When
I thought, well, okay.
In general, when you were doing all that session work, were you allowed a fair deal of your own creative input into the recordings, or were most people quite specific in what they wanted you to do?
Well, when you do play the fiddle, and it's pretty much, if it's not written out, they kind of give you free rein about how you want to do it, and rightfully so. I mean, sometimes they would give you ideas about the sound they want. If they want a kind of a Cajun-y feel, or they want a bluesy feel, or whatever, something like that, they would tell you that. But besides that, what notes to play, no, it was up to you, pretty much. You know.
Now you also,
like I say, you just had to make it. Yeah, you just had to make it fit in, you know, with the track, and when you try to do that, then they're pretty happy with that.
Sure. You also contributed to Bob Dylan's soundtrack for Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, not only on fiddle, but I believe your vocals are on Knocking on Heaven's Door. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. It was really strange how that came about, you know. I mean, I had the session, I was just going to play the fiddle, and we did that first. We did the turkey track. There was a piece on there called Turkey Track. It was a turkey chase. Turkey chase, yeah. Turkey chase, and there was a scene in there with chasing turkeys. So he'd written this instrumental, and Roger McGuinn was on banjo, and Bob on guitar, and Bruce Langhorne playing another guitar, and myself. And we sat there, and I don't know if anybody played bass on it or not. I'm not sure. Anyway, we cut that, and then he says, "Do you sing a little bit?" And I said, "Well, somewhat." He says, so me and a couple other gals got up there and sang the background vocals on Knocking on Heaven's Door. Our band now does that song, and I tell that story. So, and it was really funny. I got an interesting Bob Dylan story. About a year or so after that, I saw him somewhere in one of the clubs there in L.A. or something. He says, "Barney, you know," he says, I was driving back, and he talked more to me than I've ever heard him talking. You know, he's very quiet. But he said, I was driving back from back east going into Los Angeles, and I stopped in New Mexico at a little filling station bar type place. And I walked in, the guy recognized me, and he said, "You're Bob Dylan." He says, "I play your new single all the time on the jukebox." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, that turkey chase is great. We play that all the time." That was on the back side of Knocking on Heaven's Door. He had to tell me that. And I said, "Well, that's see, he knows good music when he hears it."
Yeah. Now, in the mid '70s, you were involved in a band called Sundance that I think only released the one album, was it?
Yeah, actually, we did two. We did one for Tacoma Records. It was a live album at McCabe's.
Ah, yes.
But the one on MCA, we did one on MCA, and yeah, that was an interesting time too. I just left Country Gazette, and it was I just want to stay home, mainly more in the Los Angeles area doing session work. But I've rediscovered some new musicians around the LA area, and the reason I left Country Gazette because everybody moved away. Like the bass player moved to Arizona, and Alan Mundy, the banjo player, moved to Texas, and Roland White lived in Nashville. So it wasn't very easy to rehearse. And I thought, well, we're not going very far anyway, so I thought I'd just concentrate more on session work. But shortly after I left Country Gazette, I started playing with and some of the other guys, like Jack Skinner and Alan Wald, who eventually we all had the group Sundance. And we got a deal immediately with the MCA Records. And then shortly after that, I mean, that group I still kept it. And that's when Vince Gill came in and kind of reformed it. And we played for about 3 years as that band, too. He was also in the band.
Right. Was it disappointing that band didn't go on further, or did you have higher hopes for it?
Yeah, I did have high hopes for it. It was a good band. And, if you don't get a record deal that really gets behind you and pushes you and stuff. I think we had the songs, we had the talent, but it just doesn't happen sometimes. So you just kind of go on and do other things.
Yeah. Now the decision to leave California and make the move to Oklahoma, what prompted that for you?
Well, the scene changed quite a bit in California. When I first moved there, it was really, really great and really exciting, and a lot of things happening in country rock and country music. And then it kind of dwindled away. Everybody moved to Nashville, so it kind of dried up, you might say. I mean, but I still enjoyed out there. I worked my share. But we had a house sitting empty here in Guthrie, Oklahoma, that my wife's father handed down to her. She grew up in that house. And my family all were around Oklahoma here, and they're still here, you know, like my brothers and sisters and stuff. So, and my wife had a brother here in Guthrie that's a doctor, and so we had this nice house sitting there empty, and I thought, you know, I've been collecting all these instruments all these years. I want to have a place where I can sell those and have a concert hall, and this, I could afford to do it in Oklahoma rather than California. So that's what made me decide that, is just move back where we're from, and it's worked out real well.
Right. And tell us about your setup there now at the Double Stop Fiddle Shop.
Yeah, we found this building, the older building. It's built in 1893, and Guthrie is a land run, where, I don't know if you're familiar with the land runs they had in Oklahoma back in the late 1800s, 1889, the one here. And so anyway, the town kind of grew up overnight from that land run, and actually it was the first capital of Oklahoma for a while, until they moved the seal down into Oklahoma City. But anyway, it's just such a neat little town, and the building is just fit me perfectly. Upstairs is like a concert hall type place. It had the stage in a different area, and then had another dining hall next to it, which worked out real well. And then downstairs is the open area where I have my shop. So it's just a perfect fit.
And your current band, tell us about the lineup and the background of some of the members of your band now.
Right. Okay. Well, John Hickman plays banjo, and of course he's from Ohio originally, and he moved to California about the same time I did, and played a lot with him out there. And we've been playing together for about 30 some years now, and then we have a guitar player, Jim Fish, who's from New York, but he studied the Byrds and studied Clarence White's playing a lot. So he knew a lot of those things that Clarence and the Byrds had done. And he'd worked with a group called the Henry Paul Band. He'd played with them before. I don't know whether you heard of them or not, but kind of a country rock band, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then Steve Short is a drummer who's been in Oklahoma for a long time. He started off in a family band with his mother and dad years ago out in California, and then they settled in Oklahoma. He ended up playing with Reba McEntire for about 3 years, I guess, on drums. This excellent drummer. And Richard Sharp, the bass player, he played a lot around with different bands in Oklahoma, mainly country and country rock stuff. And plays upright bass, and a good electric bass player too. And so that's about it for that. Then we have another fiddler who plays twin fiddles with me, and his name is Greg Burgess. Oh, the bass player is Richard Sharp. I didn't mention that, I don't think. Richard Sharp,
yeah.
Bass player. And then the other fiddler is Greg Burgess, Burgess. Fine fiddle player, mainly swinging old-time fiddle. So we have a lot of fun doing twin fiddle stuff. And then once in a while, my nephew plays the bones. He's the best bones player in the world. Rhythm bones, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know what that is? Yeah, he's just unbelievable.
Fantastic.
And so we have quite a lot of fun, and we play all kinds of music, you know, from Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and the Byrds. And we cut a tribute to Gene Clark Graham Parsons. I don't know whether you're familiar with that CD or not.
I've heard of it, haven't heard it though.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That turned out real well.
And I believe you've been doing a bit of work with Mason Williams of Classical Gas fame, is that right?
Right. We just finished a show about a week and a half ago playing with him, and yeah, we started doing some work with him because John Hickman and I've been playing with him for gosh, 30 years almost.
Wow.
On and off. And but just recently, my band has been hooking up with him and playing. And we do some symphony gigs, and mainly just the band and Mason. You know, we go out and do some shows.
Yeah.
He adds a lot of the comedy stuff to our show, and so it's a real good rounded show and it's very entertaining.
Mm.
Yeah.
And just to finish up, Byron, what would be the best piece of career advice you could give to a young musician just starting out?
Well, get as good as you can on your instrument, and just keep working at it, and be available. You know, let people know that you're available, wanting to play. And if you're good enough, people will notice you and want to play with you. So the best thing is just get as good as you can, and then be a nice guy. Try to be as cordial and nice as you can, and that goes a long way. Smile a lot, like anybody that's grumpy. You got to be happy. Have fun. That's probably the biggest part of it. I don't care what you do in life, just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's great life advice.
Yes, regardless what you do, if you have a good time doing what you're doing, life goes by a lot faster, and you'll enjoy yourself, and everybody else around you will enjoy you.
Tremendous. But Byron, thanks so much for your time. I won't hold you up any longer. Sorry about the phone dropouts, but we got there in the end, and that's the main thing. Yeah.
Well, okay. If you need anything else, just give me a call.
Will do. And all the best. And hopefully we'll see you down in Australia one day.
Okay.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. I'd love to come back there.
Great. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.